Hey everyone, I'm sure a lot of you went on a lot of trips when you were younger, with a handful of you being lucky enough to even go on a cruise ship. Except, some people that get on them aren't always lucky. But if you think about it, there's a lot that can go wrong. I mean, you're out on open sea, you can find just a ship, there's no police around, it's all stuff you don't realize, and then something bad happens, and all those issues are now very clear. I'm sure the pass rate for ships making a good trip is like 90%, but for that 10% where something goes wrong, it goes very wrong. There have been stories that you see today in this video where an issue pops up and all the passengers are forced to deal with it until the trip is done, or it gets so bad that even the captain wants to go back. I think the worst one by far in this video is where the power and plumbing system all go down at once, somehow, and the passengers sleep outside because there's no AC, and they have to use plastic bags instead of toilets. Which by that point just makes the ship a steel monolith that can't even sail back to the shore. So by the end, I just feel like all of this is a sign to just stay on land.
Welcome back to the Papa Meat channel. How you doing? How you doing? Come on in and sit on down. Today, I have something very, very important I'm going to try to drill into your brain. I'm going to try to stop you from going to hell yourself. What is hell exactly? Cruise lines. You ever have some...
I need to start making coffee for a video because it tastes like shit. I'm making my coffee.
Cruises are the biggest anomaly. It's like if Walmart was a boat. Which, honestly, when you say it out loud like that, it seems pretty cool. But cruise ship,
no, hell no. That sounds more like hell than a cruise ship having a Walmart. That filth of humanity all concentrated in one part of the ocean. Hell no.
Oh, I'm stranded on this thing. Cruises have all kinds of crazy things: drunken fighting, turbulent water. People don't realize how many people.
Please tell me that was a clip from a movie. That looks badass.
People also don't talk about the rampant assault and even murder that happens on cruise ships. So today I want to go through a couple of
I know it's all about the sinking of cruise ships,
along with some nice factoids to make sure that you do vacationing right and you stay away from cruise ships. So let's get into it. Today this video is sponsored by
You know, we'll say now, I'm probably the worst audience for this video or maybe the best because I don't really care about cruise ships, and even if I had the money to take a holiday, I don't know why you want to go on a cruise ship when you could just go to an actual country and not be confined to how big a cruise ship is and only stay that area to gamble or go to a shopping mall.
Cruises right now are almost a $30 billion a year industry. Isn't that crazy? The amount of people, though, that I hear, they're like, I'm going to cruise. We're going up to Alaska to look at waves.
I'm normally a nerd about like looking to cost of things, right? But cruise ship just seems like actually sinking money. It seems way too expensive with the fuel and the shops, everything in one place. No,
a nightmare for everyone involved. And it's the infamous poop cruise of 2013. A fire in the engine room of the Carnival Triumph led to some horrific events. Smoke in the hallway quickly turned to piled up red biohazard bags filled with poop. Out of all the echelons of ranking the cruise ships, I think Carnival is like the worst. I believe I've heard it called the Spirit Airlines.
I know this company, right? They have a mascot for this thing right here on the top where it expels fumes out and tries to make it seem attractive with the bright blue and white and red. But that looks more like dark sci-fi than anything else.
And crew members were stranded aboard after a fire knocked out the ship's power. And during this time, they were without air conditioning, without lighting, food, water, and working toilets. At the time of setting sail in February, Triumph only had...
What connection is there like with the wires that if it gets cut, like one single wire, everything goes off, like the power in the toilet? Surely it would be all like categorized, like not all together.
We cannot take the financial hit. Please go. We gotta get people on the Carnival cruise and get them out there in the ocean. Go. So for the 4 days, poop was everywhere on this cruise ship. Okay.
4 days.
Wouldn't flush, and in some cases,
isn't it a protocol that after, like, if something like this happens, they steer right back into a port or a harbor and not stay out in the ocean for 4 days? That has to be illegal.
Spilled into the hallways. People were handed bags and told to poop in the red biohazard bags instead of using toilets. Because if you use the toilet, it's probably gonna explode and make things much worse. Imagine someone coming up to you just being like, please just use this instead. These workers who probably live on the boat 8 months out of the year a lot of these times are now subjected to being poop police. And this is supposed to be your vacation. God. You know what?
Yeah, not only is that hell for the customers as well, but the employees locked up in this confinement. Jesus.
Poop cruise. They thought that this would be a civilized act, but in the end, poop was smeared all over the walls, all over the floor. People were rioting with poop on the Carnival cruise ship. And raw sewage pooled at the end of the deck. It all just...
That has to be the fumes just with their heads to make them do that.
There was, so they didn't have to use their red bag. They saw the horrors going on and they were just like, we won't be one of those red baggers. The ship still operates, and the craziest thing is after all of this nightmare, this giant publicity stunt that happened, they still use this specific ship that probably has dried up somehow. God. It's probably in the walls, it's under the floor, but like, there's no way that they did a good enough cleaning. There's no way Carnival Cruise actually gave a about that. They're probably just like, replace the carpet, we'll be fine. Moving on.
Yeah, and that was probably like that scene in Chernobyl where they have a bunch of liquidators come in and spray the goddamn town and you pretend like it's safe, but by the end, if you try to sleep in that town for like a night, you probably die of radiation poisoning. Of course, in this one, it's not gonna be as bad because you're not gonna get radiation from this shit encrusted into the walls, but that's still disgusting. Like, if it was like some dystopian prison where, as punishment, people are pushed into the ocean in a ship miles away from any civilization, that would be, you know, more eerie. But if it's like an experience you're paying money to get into and stay out in the ocean for like a week, how long, I feel they should at the bare minimum give you like a slight discount. Like with flights, if you pay for the cheapest ticket ever, more than likely it's gonna be like the worst plane ever where the oil is so overused that it's gonna explode midway through the flight. I think that should apply as well to this, you know, cruise ship where it's way cheaper, but there's a slight tinge of the putrid smell in the air when you walk down the halls.
Power. The ship's stabilizer stopped working, causing the ship to list, which I'll give you a nice little.
What's that? Is in nautical terms to describe when a vessel takes on water and tilts to one side.
What that is here, which sloshed all the water and sewage aboard. It really put a damper on the whole day. And after the vessel took on water,
yeah, that was the only bad thing about the trip. Everything else was good.
A mixture of sewage and water. Many guests dragged their mattresses to outside decks to escape the high heat because there was no AC and the nauseating smell. So the heat and the cooking poop probably made what I could only assume is a mustard gas in the air. And to escape it, they tried sleeping in the hallways instead. They tried going outside and sleeping on the docks to no one.
I think it's a very unfortunate choice to pick white as the bed sheets. Of course, I understand why, but it's the one time it really did not help the situation.
Look at this. It looks like a Mad Max picture. This is pretty unbelievable, but I will say out of all of this, the slide looks pretty fun. I would have gone on the slide.
I would not be surprised. If there were people throwing shit at the walls, I wouldn't be surprised if they like took it down the slide and watched it hit the water with kids screaming.
That is what I have to say. This is where really hit the fan. I keep saying these shit lines and it's making me laugh, but in an odd gesture to pacify guests, the cruise announced it would be hosting an open bar from 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. Why on God's green earth would you want that drunk chaos when people have no real food or water? People are shitting themselves. None of the sewage system works. So now let's just get them drunk?
What?
This proved to be a horrible idea as guests on board became unruly, getting into fights, throwing things overboard, and damaging the already compromised restrooms. And the next day, the crew awoke to the news that they had drifted too far off course from the intended destination for the emergency port, which is really funny because that means to me that the crew definitely got smashed as well to probably cope with how terrible this whole situation was going. They probably got
that really is a bad idea because even the crew's gonna get drunk as well. So if they were all hoping on dying, then maybe it'd be a good way to die, a good way to go out. But if they want to come back to shore, probably not the best idea.
To Mobile, Alabama, adding another 2 days to the hell. They were already in it for 4 days, and then they had to stack on an additional 2 just to get towed to an area where they could let people off and get out of this nightmare. In the end, multiple passengers...
Yeah, how do you even tow a ship? Like, it's not like a car where you just put on the cable. You need ships to actually, push it on the side.
Mobile, Alabama were actually complaining how bad the ship smelled itself. Carnival Cruise, though they provided all passengers a full reimbursement, a free flight home, and a $500 credit, which what a slap in the face. $500 credit to what? Hey, you're gonna come see us again, aren't you? Hey, if you do have another vacation with, your old ass wife and your annoying kids, please consider Carnival, would you? Tons of passengers.
I predict he's gonna make a segment of the video where people sued cruise liner. That would be a pretty good defense, you know, to get money out of it from a lawsuit where you get scarred being locked up in a cruise ship for 4 days with, you know, feces everywhere.
Still used today blows my fucking mind. But you think sewage and poop are the only reasons to not go on one of these cruise ships? No, no, no. It is estimated that there are over 300 deaths on cruises each year. From 2000 to 2019,
How? I can see why. Yeah, it's no police. Duh.
Carnival Cruises and Royal Caribbean and everyone else got the books together and they fudged some numbers. But still, in a 20-year span, how does 623 people, how do they just magically die?
I saw he said 300 earlier. He's probably on the numbers.
In terms of death on a cruise, we're going to speak of the sinking seawall. Swall. On April 16, 2014, the Sewol ferry sank on its way to South Korea. Out of 476 passengers, 304 of them died. 250 of these deaths were
That's a lot, yeah.
survived, were rescued by
For a ship accident, it still sounds bad. But for a cruise liner, that sounds way worse.
Modifications that were deemed illegal, but the Korean Register of Shipping let it go because the ship had, quote unquote, normally passed its inspections and tests. Here's a list of some of these modifications. Addition of 2 decks, expansion of cargo gross tonnage, adding 239 tons, increasing the passenger capacity from 116 people to 956 people. These modifications caused the center.
How do you modify that? How do you modify that and not have like the inspector know about it?
41 round trips before its final voyage, and at the time of sinking, it was carrying over 2,000 tons. The water balance tank beneath the hull of the ship, designed to keep it upright, was only adjusted for 800 tons of cargo, making the ship unstable. And like we said, it was only made for 800, but at this time it was carrying over 2,000 tons. So just greatly over what it was supposed to be carrying.
That's one of those things where like if you're on an elevator and you see like the weight limit on the side, it's like 1 ton, whatever, you're like, oh, surely, you know, we could stretch that limit a little bit more. This seems like the one time where they tried to, and of course it ended horribly. Okay, if you have to be dumb to try to test that limit, not just twice, but like twice and a half, being 2,000 compared to like 800, that was the max.
Coward told people not to move and made an escape and did not let anybody know. The Coast Guard, who had jurisdiction, did not mobilize. They did not share the valuable data and did not act, leaving civilians and other organizations to step in, which is why many were rescued by fishermen and some commercial ships in the area. So literally, the Coast Guard didn't do anything in that situation.
How lucky do you have to be out fishing near that coast to just see that cruise liner sink?
Pretty much why the people that were able to survive were saved by fishermen and civilians alike. I mean, these people were the actual heroes of the situation. Due to inaccurate reporting of survivors and those rescued, it was months before they revealed that the majority of people perished. And on May 15th, the captain and the 3 crew members were charged with murder. Yes! I love these story endings.
I love how there's always like that myth of like a captain goes down with the ship, but most of the stories I feel like this, the captain's always a coward that runs out first and, you know, tries to get you safety.
South Korea had it administered in almost 20 years. Even the captain's brother said he deserved the death penalty. That's really funny. He's just like, that guy. I know. We're blood. He's my brother, but that guy. 11 other members were indicted for abandoning the ship, and an arrest warrant was also issued to Yoo Byung-hyun, owner of the ferry operation, but he could not be found despite a nationwide manhunt. That little slippery son of a. In July of 2014, Byung-hyun was found in a field just south of Seoul. I wonder, that feels a little suspicious to me. And in 2017, 3 years later, a sunken ferry was raised from the sea floor where the trapped bodies of 9 of the victims were presumed to be inside. The body of a 16-year-old girl was never found. What a tragic end. I mean, just something where it's people trying to make extra money out of something. I do not trust these companies. I don't trust any of these cruise companies. It is the shadiest, weirdest. The ocean is just so scary within itself. I cannot imagine being some of these people and, God forbid, drowning to death. My God. I'm glad. I know, and I hope that he got death penalty as well. And you know what you're probably saying to yourself too? Well, if something bad happens on these ships, surely they have doctors, right? Well, let me tell you another story. On a separate cruise line.
Before we get into that story, it's funny how, I guess, what do you call it, like naval ships or naval technology has gone so far. Back when we had like Viking ships where we had people just rowing, that to the point that we have now where we can make like massive ships that are like 10 times bigger than the Titanic. But even then, slight like adjustments or modifications can still lead to like sinking or having some kind of accident that still like causes it to sink in some way or another. Like, I feel like most of the time like this story was because of weight, like, you know, being like really putting way too much like over the max limit. And I imagine that with this kind of company that tried to maximize how much the ship could carry. They're probably also too cheap to buy like the lifeboats in the scenario that something like this would happen. And it's funny because whenever you walk around the ship, you always see like those like life rings, those circus things, whatever, and you're always like, that should be the most useless piece of equipment ever on this boat. But it is like a 1 in a million case where until you're on that ship sinking, that's probably the most valuable equipment you could find anywhere, like close around you. I mean, from the footage he showed, I can only see like them wearing life vests, but if it wasn't for those people, like civilians, going on fishing boats, I want to know how long would have actually taken for actual help to arrive, and them just like staying on the boat, trying not to like go down with the sinking ship.
Symptoms. Let me say that again. An employee on a cruise line had his arm cut off, amputated, because he was showing flu-like symptoms. What? A carpenter.
As you do. As every normal doctor would do.
Norwegian breakaway, Sebastian Campuzano. The doctor was very young and extremely inexperienced. He was prescribed promethazine. Promethazine? Like Prometheus? The guy who fucking stole fire and gave it to humans? Holy shit, that's sweet. Elijah was prescribed...
He stole that guy's arm and gave it to mankind. That's what he did.
Supposed to be, you know, shot in your butt. But the doctor insisted on injecting it intravenously. And even after several complaints of the patient describing burning sensation and exhibiting some gangrene symptoms, the doctor continued administering promethazine via IV. So this doctor doesn't know what he's doing. He is literally hired professionally by this cruise ship to be there. And instead of giving the promethazine, it's just like a one-time shot in your butt. He is giving it to him via IV. It's almost as if it's like a fucking morphine tap, which because of this...
Oh, how does he normally take it? I'm not trying to judge this guy's doctor, you know, diplomacy, whatever. Like, how does he take it? Don't you just like inject it into your vein?
Tragedy. We've talked about accidents that happen, right? Well, needless to say, they're man-made accidents, thinking that 2 of your generators not working isn't a problem and it starts a fire. But, you know, accidents, needless to say. Then you have a little bit of negligence, right? Or greed and negligence.
If this is gonna be the disease story, I think that's gonna be scarier. At least with like a generator or the engine busting down, you can have mechanics try to fix it. If there's a disease spreading everywhere, it could get worse in the span of a week, however long you're on the ship for.
Statement to say, but it is pretty crazy how egregious this is. Despite the severity of it, cruise ships have little interest in offering solutions, as it's likely cheaper to pay victims off than it is to implement precautionary measures. In a specific...
Hey, that's clever, okay? Come on.
Talking about a group assault on a minor, they went on record by saying that installing cameras and hiring more security would just be far too expensive, and they just weren't going to do it. So they'd just rather be like, we're just going to pay.
That's good management. That's how you make an empire, by saving money.
These assaulters are crew members, people who work for the cruise lines themselves. And I'm building up all of this information and telling you some of these statistics because it leads up to the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise incident. A bartender stole the key card to the room of a Jane Doe while serving her drinks. He snuck her into her room, and after she and her roommate had gone to bed, he assaulted her. And eventually she found out she was pregnant and was forced to terminate the pregnancy. These assaults are so common in like cruise lines and stuff. There's an actual market for safety gear for reinforcing locks on cabin doors to remain safe. People get assaulted on these...
Okay, I'm gonna go back for a second. I've seen this a lot on TikTok, and I hate them so much. On a cruise ship, when you have rumors of companies always buying out the victims, I can see why you would feel the need to buy that. I can't blame her for that.
And what's crazy is 70% of all assaults on U.S. cruises are on Royal Caribbean or Carnival cruises. I'm putting that out there just in case you hear someone who's like, hey, let's go on a Carnival cruise.
They probably spend a lot of money trying to get that statistic out of the papers.
In the U.S. are Royal Caribbean and Carnival. That's insane. When you're on these cruise ships as well, with the amount of assault, murders, negligence of people, one of the craziest things is passengers being more harmed to themselves than anything. That's people going overboard, going missing, right? People voluntarily jump overboard all the time. It's just, I don't know why people do it. I don't think people really realize how extreme the ocean actually is. The ocean is like, if you jump in the ocean, you're probably, you're gone. Especially on a cruise ship, it's just like...
Nah, if I jumped overboard, I could probably swim back to the nearest country in like 20 hours.
He's still missing. That guy...
If I jumped overboard on the way, like crossing the Atlantic from Europe to America, I could probably swim back to Europe in like 20 hours, yeah, I'd say.
On my cruise ship, to think I could have been a man who jumped overboard in the middle of the night. My God. Some people, all the times, you get drunk, you lose your balance, you fall. And even in one of these cases, a man spent 20 hours in shark infested waters, and he was supposedly sober.
Okay, I was joking, right? At least I'm a bigger man because I could swim back to shore compared to that guy that was stuck. Also, him talking about like jumping overboard. That reminds me of one movie I saw when I was a kid that really creeped me out. It was like a group of like young people with a baby, and all the adults are having a party upstairs, and they all. Well, not all of them, like all the guys, because you know they're macho men. They pick up, you know, the girls and they jump overboard, but they forgot to like activate the stairs to let them back on. So the entire movie is them having to like stay afloat, like next to the ship, and try to find ways to get back on. And some of them are so tired and exhausted, they just kill themselves in the water. And then by the end of the movie, like, a girl and her boyfriend get back on the ship, and the guy that started the whole party gets so like guilty, he just kills himself by the end. And it was just like, the movie was like 2 hours long, but it was so painful because I don't know, it's like one of those situations that doesn't sound that scary on paper, but if you have it like on film or like a story about it, it is way more creepy. That has nothing to do with the story, but the idea of jumping overboard and not being able to get back on the ship is scary to me, just from that movie alone.
And there's even sometimes too where it's not even a dare, or you're not even trying to be a badass, you're not even drunk. A woman here, she's just leaning backwards, loses her balance and falls, and there she goes. I mean, it's staggering. There is nothing there to save you once you're over that dock.
Right. If you showed that to me in a Vine compilation like 15 years ago, I would have found that a little bit funny.
In departing times, it's often the case that passengers will be left behind at foreign destinations and never be seen again. When you're on these cruise lines, you're kind of hopping from island to island, and it's kind of like little resort towns and stuff like that. But these people, it's not like there's like a last call or something like a bus. It's these motherfuckers leave. And a lot of the times when these people leave these ports, you're just gone. You never hear from these people again. Who knows what happened?
Wait, no. Were those people that didn't get back on the ship at the right time and now they're just stuck? Oh my god.
March 23rd of 1998. She came in late with her younger brother from clubbing on board around 3:40 a.m. and went to sleep on the balcony. At 6 a.m., her father woke to check on her, and she was missing. Authorities were immediately alerted as to her disappearance, and it was theorized she fell overboard and drowned, despite people asserting she was a very strong swimmer. Which, listen, dude, if you're a strong swimmer, who gives the ocean? Like, people don't realize the power of the ocean. It's so scary. I'm telling you, the ocean is the scariest thing on earth. I don't care what anybody says. The captain refused to put out a call for her, refused to put up photos for her, and did not even attempt to search for her until noon of the next day after the ship had been disembarked and unlocked. In 1999, a member of the U.S. Navy claimed to have seen her working in a brothel where she told him who she was and begged for help. He did not. He did not report the sighting until after he retired, as he
did the captain not tell anyone that she went missing because he didn't want you like damper the experience of everyone else? Fair enough, you know. If you're paying money, you don't want to hear about someone that just died in the ocean, you know.
He told about this woman in the brothel and never helped her until he retired. A coward. An employee going by the nickname Yellow that had been seen dancing with her was quoted to have said that he felt bad about what happened to her before the search for her on the ship had even completed. Strange. It's almost as if he knew. Another sighting of her in 2005 show her being held by 3 men in a department store restroom. She tried begging another person for help but was taken away. Evidence has presented itself to assume that she was sold into sex trafficking. And a jawbone washed ashore in Aruba in 2010. Once they concluded it was not another missing person, it was disposed of with no DNA testing done, despite 9 other missing Caribbean vacationers. You see a bone wash up on the beach? Toss it back. It's good luck. Fuck sakes, man. At some point, a scammer contacted the family and proved to be legitimate enough to send over $200,000 to forge a rescue attempt to find Amy. Blew all the money on drinks and gambling and demanded more money after he provided convincing evidence that he found her in a fenced compound. Eventually, it was found out that it was a hoax, and he was convicted and ordered to pay back all that he stole.
Jesus Christ. Not only did that family lose the loved one of that woman, but now that people are scamming them as well. Jesus Christ.
This scared the shit out of me. And unfortunately, we have to talk about Rebecca Corium, which this incident happened in March 22nd, 2011. She did not show up to her shift in the morning, was behaving distraught beforehand, and Disney publicly claimed to have no knowledge of where or when she went missing. Employees off the record were quoted saying they were supposed to tell people it quote unquote didn't happen. Flowers were placed at a certain part of the deck by the company where she was suspected of going overboard.
If that was Disney, it was Disney. I'm not surprised because they will just like actually rip off your your lips if you try to talk about her.
Side, despite giving no other indication to family members. Her girlfriend went on the record several years later and claimed that she was using cocaine and having difficulties of that nature. There was even a claim that maybe a rogue wave swept her off, but the weather records indicate that it was like a pretty calm night, and that was very unlikely. They were given another crew member's flip-flops and told that she might have taken them off to sit on the rail and slipped off. Only one international police officer ever showed up, and a report was never done. A private settlement was reached 4 years later.
See, a lot of these mysteries which should be solved, they had like cameras around the ship. There was that one video of the woman falling off, but how many ships just refused to install them because it would cost them a tiny bit of amount of money.
High luxury, your getaway. It's the thing that you work hard to pay for, and it's like these ultimate death traps. At a moment's notice, you could just go overboard and go missing forever, and no one would ever find you. Something wrong can happen on the ship that you had no control over, and these companies should be held more responsible. But you know, 29.
You could have control over it by not getting on the ship and saving your money. That's how.
Because they have Guy Fieri Burger open 24 hours on these ships, and they have casinos and all this. And let me tell you, you will never find me on a cruise ship again. It is way, way too scary, especially with the ocean and stuff. If you've ever been on a cruise ship at night and you look off, it is a black void. There is nothing. You really don't know how alone you are until you're on a cruise ship and you realize, oh, I'm trapped. And the only thing you get to do is go off into these like vacation resort towns that are just filled with people trying to get you to buy shit. Personally, if I were you, don't go on a cruise. Find some other kind of vacation to do. You know what I mean? Treat yourself right. Buy yourself something nice. Pick up a new hobby. But for the love of God, stay away from cruise ships. Thank you so much for watching this video and have a good one. See you guys.
Yeah, my God, dude. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm not a very adventurous person, but I would definitely want to go on a ship because not only my tie to whatever price they have on the shops on the ship, where if the food is a little bit expensive, tough luck, you're on a ship unless you want to jump overboard and swim back to the nearest town, and that probably is the only option to not waste your money on the ship. But apart from that, I feel like cruise ships were like such a common fun idea back in like the 30s or 40s, where it seemed like it'd be good, but over the years there were just so many issues that not only did people not want to go on them, but cruise liners could barely make any money because there were so many issues that you pay so much, and there just wasn't like a big enough market to actually make money out of it. But I guess the fact that they started from like the 60s or 70s, I guess, to today is a testament that you can make money out of it from just rich families that don't care of the risk that could go wrong, like on the ship, and they want to have a good time, guys. Come on. Even though, to be honest, I really feel like they're not gonna be as popular in a couple of years or like a decade because of I'm surprised they didn't mention like how much fuel they burn. Like I saw one fact like how one ship on a route will burn the equivalent of 100,000 cars just from that one day. And regardless of your stance on the planet and the environment, you have to admit that's one fact that makes you like step back for a second and be like, okay, that's way too much fuel for this goddamn ship, when I feel like most people just enjoy taking a holiday anywhere else and like just spending all that fuel on planes. I think that would be a much better waste or use of the fuel anyways, compared to being locked into a ship where anything go wrong. I mean, this video, to make it shorter, he probably cut out a lot of stories that are way worse of, like employees doing, horrible stuff, and there just being like no enforcement of the law. Because, I mean, you're on the ocean. What can you really do if the employees won't help you? Like, you really are just at that point.